Have you ever seen the red flags but stayed anyway? Maybe you thought they would change. Maybe you felt so connected you didn't want to let go. Or maybe you just didn't know what to do with that gut feeling that something wasn't right. My sister, when we ignore red flags, we don't just delay heartbreak, we often invite it. You're listening to Love Journey, dating and relationship talk for women who love God and want a love that will last. I'm your host, Elana Patton. Welcome to Love Journey. Hey, my sister, welcome back to the Love Journey podcast. This is episode 11, and we're continuing our discussion on dating, specifically dating for marriage. In last week's episode, I shared that when you're dating with marriage in mind, your job isn't just to feel, it's to evaluate. That means dating intentionally, with your eyes open and your heart aligned with God's wisdom, not just your emotions. This week, we're taking that one step further by talking about discernment in dating, because if you want love that lasts, you can't afford to ignore red flags. In this episode, we're going to be talking about why we ignore red flags, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually, what red flags to watch for as Christian women, how to respond to red flags with wisdom and courage, and most importantly, how to root your relationship decision in God's standard for love. My sister, if you're dating for marriage, discernment is not optional. This episode will help you protect your heart before you give it away, so you can walk in clarity, not confusion. Now make sure to stick around to the end for the checkpoint challenge. I have 4 questions to help you evaluate how you deal with red flags. Now, if this is your first time joining us, welcome. Every episode of Love Journey is rooted in God's Word and designed to help you prepare for a love that will last, from personal healing to partner selection to building a godly relationship. This podcast isn't just about giving advice, it's about walking with intention. Now, I want to give a shout out to our listeners in Mountain View, California, Ashburn, Virginia, Woodstock, Georgia, and Voorhees Township, New Jersey. Thank you all for tuning in. Now, let's get into it. We know that red flags aren't good. So why do we ignore them? We don't ignore red flags because we're foolish. We ignore them because we're human. Emotionally and biologically, we are wired to cling to connection, not run from it. And from the rush of attraction to the fear of being alone, there are real reasons red flags can be hard to recognize and even harder to act on. Here's why. First impressions and early chemistry can cloud our judgment. They call this the halo effect. That's when one good trait blinds us to serious flaws in a partner. Confirmation bias makes us look for evidence that supports what we want to believe. If we believe the relationship is good, then we overlook anything bad about the relationship to protect that belief. The sunk cost fallacy. Now, this is a term that's used in investment, and it's a phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to give up on a strategy or a course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it's clear that letting it go would be more beneficial. And in relationships, the more time, effort, and emotion we invest in our relationship, the harder it is to walk away. Fear of loneliness can make dysfunction feel safer than starting over. Hope for change keeps us holding on to potential instead of reality. And hormones like dopamine and oxytocin, these feel-good chemicals that are released during attraction and bonding, we talked about this last episode. They literally impair clear decision-making. And when you're infatuated, you cannot think straight. And spiritually, we often fail to trust God with our love life, relying on our own understanding instead of His. And that's why Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 reminds us, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not depend on your own understanding. Seek His will in all you do, and He will show you which path to take. Translation, trust God's timing, trust God's plan, trust God's character. Recognize your own limits and release control. Involve God in every step, and He will guide you, give you clarity and peace, because His way is the right way. This verse is speaking about how we can trust God to give us discernment. It's what we need to protect our hearts without hardening them and to date in alignment with God's truth, not just feelings. Now let's talk about what a red flag actually is and how discernment in dating helps us respond. Red flags in dating are warning signs of unhealthy or harmful behavior that can signal deeper problems. Some are obvious, like physical violence, while others are subtle, like emotional manipulation, spiritual inconsistency, or passive-aggressive control. A red flag is any behavior, pattern, or attitude that signals emotional, relational, or spiritual danger. They let us know when something isn't aligned with God's truth, no matter how much chemistry or connection we feel. And as women of faith, we're called to pause, pray, and evaluate before proceeding. Discernment in dating is the spirit-led ability to see clearly beyond chemistry, charm, or emotion so you can make wise, God-honoring decisions about who to pursue a relationship with. It means you're not just asking, do I like him? You're asking, is this relationship bearing good fruit? And is this connection aligned with God's will for my life? Discernment will help you spot red flags early, recognize godly character or lack of it. It will help you avoid being led by emotions alone, and it will help you to stay aligned with God's timing and purpose. 1 John 4:1 says, "Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God." So in dating, discernment is how you test what you see, feel, and hear, so you can choose wisely with God's truth and not just your heart. Now let's go over some common red flags, and then I'm going to share with you the red flags every Christian woman should pay attention to. I've broken these down into 4 categories. I'm going to share what they are and how they show up. Controlling behavior. This is when a person tries to dictate your choices or isolate you or make decisions for you. Love bombing, the over-the-top affection that they express to you early on, followed by withdrawal or manipulation. Gaslighting. This is when a person makes you question your own memory, sanity, and reality. Explosive anger. This is when a person regularly blows up over small things or is unpredictable in their behavior. Emotional manipulation. They use guilt and passive aggression to control your choices. Verbal abuse, yelling, name-calling, belittling remarks that tear you down and tear down your self-worth. Sexual coercion or pressure. This is when they disregard your boundaries or manipulate you into physical intimacy. And then physical intimidation, threatening gestures, blocking exits, or creating fear and conflict. These are all behavioral and emotional red flags. Here are some communication red flags. Stonewalling. This is when they refuse to talk or shuts down during conflict. Chronic criticism. Constantly putting you down, often disguised as jokes. Inconsistent communication. One day they're texting you like crazy. The next day, crickets. They play disappearing acts for days and sometimes weeks. And a person who blames others. This is when they never take responsibility or apologize sincerely. How about some spiritual red flags? Lukewarm or shallow faith. Now they say they believe, but they show no fruit and no spiritual growth. Unequally yoked. This is when their beliefs oppose yours. You guys are not on the same page when it comes to moral conviction or life goals. Spiritual manipulation. They use faith to guilt, shame, or control. Disrespect for boundaries. They pressure you to compromise on your purity or convictions. And then lifestyle and character red flags. Dishonesty or secrecy. This is when a person lies or omits important details. Addiction. This ongoing struggle with substances, porn, and even gambling. Irresponsibility can show up as financial chaos, and unreliable commitments. And then bad treatment of others. They're rude to waitstaff, family, and even strangers. So what red flags should every Christian woman pay attention to? All of them. Absolutely every red flag you see. Because as believers, we're not called to ignore red flags and hope for the best. We're called to pause, pray, and use discernment with the help of the Holy Spirit to know when to stay, when to speak up, and when to walk away. You don't need to wait until it turns toxic. If something feels off, take it seriously. Your safety, peace, and purpose matters to God. And you need to hear this. Abuse is not love. Control is not love. Fear is not love. Discernment is the protection. And God gives it to you so you can choose love that's healthy, holy, and whole. Now, how can you respond to red flags? Here's 5 things you should do. Pause and pray. Ask the Lord for clarity. Don't rush it. You just want to pray to the Lord and ask Him, Lord, what is it that I'm seeing or not seeing? Document and observe. Is this a pattern or a one-time issue? Speak up. Share your concerns clearly. And then watch their responses. Do they take responsibility or get defensive? And then lastly, set boundaries and be ready to walk away if you need to. God never calls you to stay in dysfunction for the sake of potential. Now let's walk through a couple of red flag responses and green flag responses to help you identify what a red flag looks like and what healthy looks like. Scenario number 1. You try to express your feelings saying something he did hurt you. He brushes it off with, "You're being too sensitive. That's not what I meant. I don't have time for this." This red flag response represents emotional invalidation. He's not listening or seeking understanding. He's dismissing your experience and making you feel like you're the problem. Now, what's a green flag response? Someone who values the relationship will pause, listen, and seek understanding, even if they didn't mean to cause harm. A healthy response would be, "I didn't realize that upset you. That wasn't my intent, but I'm sorry. Let's talk about it." Scenario number 2. You suggest praying together or reading a devotional, and he avoids it or says, "You're the spiritual one. That's not really my thing." This is a red flag response because a man who doesn't show a desire to grow in faith or lead spiritually may not be aligned with your purpose or God's standard for partnership. Now, what about a green flag response? A spiritually mature man doesn't have to be perfect, but he'll show a willingness to grow and a shared desire to honor God. He would respond, "I may not be where you are spiritually, but I want to grow. Let's do this together." Scenario number 3. You make plans with your girlfriend, and he says, "I just don't think it's wise for you to be out that late. I'm only saying this because I care." Then he texts or calls repeatedly while you're out. This is red flag behavior because this isn't protection, it's control masked as concern. It reflects insecurity and attempts to limit your freedom. A secure man may sound like, "I trust you to make decisions and take care of yourself. Just holler at me when you get in." It's not enough to just spot red flags. You also need to know what godly, healthy love looks like, because attraction is not enough. Chemistry is not enough. God's design for love is purposeful, protective, and spiritually aligned. Here's what that kind of relationship reflects: a Christ-centered foundation. You both love God more than you love each other, and you walk with Him together in purpose, purity, and prayer. Selfless, Christ-like love. It's not selfish or prideful. It's patient, kind, humble, and seeks the best for each other. Honest, grace-filled communication. You talk through hard things with kindness. There's no emotional punishment or silent treatment, just clarity and care. mutual respect and trust. You honor each other's time, space, and boundaries, and you both trust God with the future. Integrity and consistency. What's shown in public matches what's lived in private. No games, no double lives, just honesty. Commitment to purity. You protect each other's hearts and bodies. There's no compromising, just conviction. Spiritual growth. You grow in faith together. You pray, seek godly counsel, and sharpen one another in your walk with Christ. Purposeful intentionality. You're dating with direction. You're asking the real questions and walking in peace, not confusion. God has given us a blueprint for love, and it's not just about feeling happy or reaching a relationship goal. It's about growing in purpose, purity, and partnership with God at the center. Well, it's time for the Checkpoint Challenge, so grab your journal and answer these questions. Number 1, what red flags have I ignored in my past and why? Number 2, are there any red flags I minimize in my current relationship? Number 3, what fruit am I seeing in this person's life? And then number 4, am I asking God for wisdom or just hoping things work out? My sister, I know this was a lot, but I hope today gave you clarity and confidence. You don't have to ignore red flags. You don't have to settle. And you definitely don't have to figure it out alone. You are worthy of a love that reflects God's heart, not just His name. So trust Him to lead you, guide you, and protect you as you move forward in wisdom. And be here next week because I'm going to share how to spot the signs that a man is truly serious about marriage and not just dating for fun. You'll learn how to evaluate intentions, confidence, and peace. And if this episode blessed you, don't forget to like or comment if you're listening on YouTube and leave a review if you're listening on iTunes. Now remember, God's way is not always the quickest, but it is the way that leads to a love that lasts. I'm cheering you on, always.